as I've already talked briefly about it in my previous videos about the prolonged grief disorder, suffering loss doesn't only happen after losing a loved person. So it could also happen in situations when, for instance, maybe someone's been working in a certain profession for a very long time and then suddenly they need to actually leave their job, maybe they need to leave the profession altogether. In other situations, people, they might be suffering from losing their mobility, maybe because of some prolonged illnesses or maybe because of some accidents. In other situations, people, they will be suffering from loss because maybe they've lost all the belongings that they had. And this could happen in situations where maybe there was a war or maybe some natural disasters. Some other person, then maybe they need to migrate the country. So in that situation, maybe they will suffer from losing their family and their community. In today's video, I'm gonna be giving you a few examples of how we as humans can suffer from loss other than after losing a loved person. In situations when someone, for example, has been separated from their family because they needed to migrate to, let's say, UK because they are no longer safe living in their own country, and here in the UK maybe they receive asylum seeker status. That means they cannot work at the moment, or maybe they don't know when they're going to be traveling next time, and because of that they're really suffering from losing that sense of belonging to their family and also to their community. So in cases like that, we can actually be more creative and help the person to think what are the most important aspects that they really miss about that sense of belonging to the family community. So they might say, for instance, that maybe having a meal together with the family, it was really important part of their life. In situations like that, we could ask the person to actually have a video call where maybe the family members are having a dinner. So that will still give them at least some sense of belonging, some sense of being part of that ritual that they had as a family. Another way of dealing with the loss of maybe them belonging to their community back in their country, it is about helping them to get involved in maybe certain activities that are meaningful here, maybe in the UK, and maybe seeing if there are any communities or maybe minorities that they could feel included in them. So for instance, if someone is coming from a Muslim country, they might actually find it very helpful to maybe start going to certain mosques and seeing whether maybe within the mosque there are certain activities, whether there are certain lectures that they might really enjoy, maybe something similar to what they used to do when they lived in their country. Another example of someone who might be suffering from loss, it could be in situation when someone maybe needs to give up on the profession. So it could be war veterans, for example, in situations when maybe they suffer certain injuries, maybe they suffer certain physical conditions, or maybe they're actually at the age where they need to retire from their profession. So in situations like that, definitely we will work with loss. So here we will have to think about how the person is feeling, what the person is missing, what it is that they're still longing for. And then as well, a huge part of our work will involve helping the person to actually move on. So thinking about how they imagine their life without actually being in this profession, what would be their new identity without actually maybe being an active soldier. Another situation when we're going to be dealing with loss, it is when someone, for example, maybe they suffer a car accident, or maybe they had some long-term illnesses that actually left them now maybe paralyzed or maybe disabled. So now what they can do is very limited, and it's maybe really different to what they were able to do before maybe they got ill or maybe before they suffered the accident. So in situation like that, we will first of all need to help the person to actually process the emotions that they're associating with the loss before we can actually move on to do any other work. And then only we can actually start helping the person to think about the future. So once we process the loss and when we want to help the person to actually move on, so when we start thinking maybe about the new life and how they want to see themselves in the new life, we could actually think about what it was important for them before maybe they suffer the accident. So maybe they would say that, yes, I used to meet with my friends and maybe we used to play football together, but it wasn't only about playing football, it was about like meeting them and maybe after playing the football. It was about going out together and maybe having a meal together. So then we could think about activities where this person can still feel included in that circle of friends. So maybe coming up with new activities that they can actually be involved. So even having a dinner together with them. And then as well, we could make a list of alternative physical activities that they could have within what's possible for them at the moment. So it is about helping the person to find the new meaningful activities or hobbies where maybe they have again the sense of belonging to certain group of people, but at the same time they will have to be within their physical capacity. And it's very understandable that initially people, they might feel very hesitant, they might feel very skeptical about participating in these new activities. But we could ask them initially to actually participate in them as part of this behavior experiment. And in situations like that, we would also ask the person to actually score the emotions before the activity and after. So here we would hope that after participating, maybe the level of mood, maybe the level of happiness or satisfaction will increase. And that would be something that possibly could then encourage the person to actually continue with this behavior. Another example when we might be working with loss, it is in situation when someone might suffer significant changes to their body, and then because of that they've developed this very unhelpful cognitions around their appearance. So they might have this cognition such as, now I will never meet anyone, I just look disgusting, I'm just a horrible person now. So one of the ways how we can work with those cognitions, it is using the behavior experiments that we would use when working with, for example, social anxiety. Another example, when we might be dealing with significant loss that might be different to maybe losing a close person, it is in situation when someone has this really strong sense of injustice. And in cases like that, it is really important initially to help the person to actually to feel empathic for them and also to validate the experience. And then in some cases, it might be actually really helpful and healing for person to actually seek the justice. However, not in all cases we can actually seek the justice. Sometimes actually seeking the justice can actually only aggravate the sense of injustice and anger. Anger often can actually be maintained by ruminations. So once we actually help the person to validate the experience, once we show the empathy and understanding of how difficult the situation is, then we can also help them to see the pros and cons of actually staying with their anger and ruminating about what has happened. And once the person is ready, we can actually help them to work towards a new perspective. And although it is really hard and it feels unjust, we can actually help the person to move forward in their life. So we could help them to channel the energy that they're spending at the moment, at the anger, into something that might be more meaningful to them. So in some cases, people, they will start some campaigns, maybe they will start some awareness activities that actually are related to what they went through. So they would actually have this sense that maybe now they're spreading awareness what has happened to them. So maybe they actually are able to prevent some people going through the same thing what they suffered from. So that will be it for today. And if you enjoyed this video, then please like it, subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one then. Thank you. Bye bye.